All right. Good afternoon, residents of Everett, Washington. We apologize. We had a few technical difficulties, but we're rolling now. So I'd like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of July 27, 2022, and welcome everyone back into the City Council chambers. The City Council will be conducting our weekly council meeting hybrid. This will allow us to reach members of our community who wish to participate via Zoom or those who wish to attend in person in the chambers this afternoon. It is our hope to continue this format to be as accessible as possible to our community. For those who wish to participate via Zoom, you may find the public comment registration form on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. You will need to fill out the form completely. Once you go to register here to provide comment via Zoom, you will need to fill out the form completely if you wish to provide public comment at a future meeting. After the public comment form is submitted, you will receive an email confirmation with the Zoom link and the phone number to the meeting. Participants must submit this form at least 30 minutes prior to the meeting. Forms submitted after that time will not receive the Zoom link number to speak, but may still participate the day of the meeting by coming in person to the council chambers right up until before the meeting begins. Please note that we do not allow comments on any kind of campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We also do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin.
Excused.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Here.
President Stonecipher.
Excused.
Councilmember Fossey.
Here.
Councilmember Schwab.
Here.
Vice President Toohey.
Here. I would like to ask Councilmember Zarlingo to lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. And now I'd like to ask Councilmember Fossey to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Shtahobes, people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will still strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of July 20, 2022?
So moved.
And a second?
Councilmember Schwab, second.
Thank you. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Ryan.
Abstain.
Councilmember Vogely.
Abstain.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey.
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Vice President Toohey.
Abstain. Angie, do we have anyone signed up to speak this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Vice President Toohey. I do have several people signed up to speak, some remote and in audience. So I will call those who are remote first and then those in chambers. When I call your name, if possible, please turn on your camera, unmute yourself, and give your name and city for the record. Please remember to limit your comments to 3 minutes. At 30 seconds, I will ask you to begin to wrap up. So first,
Before going, Vice President Toohey, what was the vote on the minutes? Was it 3, 4, and 3 abstaining? We need a majority of those present to approve the minutes, so we'll have to put that off until next week.
first we will have Trevor speak. So go ahead, Trevor.
Hello, my name is Trevor Gendam. I'm an RN at Providence Regional Medical Center in Everett. I'm just here
One
today.
moment, Trevor, I'm not hearing you very well.
My name is Trevor Gendam. Can you hear me?
It's very low. One moment.
It might not be you, Trevor.
Check, check, mic check.
Yeah, we're working on it, I think, from our end.
For what it's worth, I can hear Trevor and the city council just fine.
Trevor, can we try?
Check, check. Is that better?
It's better.
Ooh, getting some weird feedback. You guys can hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Trevor, go ahead.
Can I go?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Trevor Gendum. I'm an RN at Providence Regional Medical Center in Everett. I'm just here today to continue to talk about the staffing shortage that's affecting Providence nurses and of course more importantly our community. I know this is something you guys have heard a lot about recently. I just think it's important to kind of keep coming here and telling you guys about what's going on. I'm personally part of the Providence Staffing Committee. I'm part of the Providence Staffing Committee, and I've been to a few meetings and just kind of seeing that there's very little movement on how to fix or improve staffing at the hospital. And I just wanted to note that this is a systemic issue, really. It's a systemic failure. I know you're going to hear about long length of stay if we can get some admin here to talk about what's going on. The long length of stay issue isn't something that happened overnight. It's something that happened over a long period of time. The boomer generation, which is going to be was going to increase in hospitalizations and long length of stay type patients that go to like skilled nursing facilities, places like that. These sort of issues were known about a long time ago, and very little or nothing was done to correct these issues. And that's something that I think as we go forward to ask Providence about is like, what were we doing to fix stuff like this? You knew there's a nationwide staffing shortage. So what did you do to keep nurses in the area? I think that's kind of an important way to look at it, because I think we saw a news report this week where Providence, or there's hospital systems that are saying, oh, we lost all this money. We don't know what to do. Well, you really did know what to do a long time ago. You should have made different decisions. Something that happened in 2017, Providence, which is a 51 hospital organization, it's a massive organization. It gave its top 14 executive raises exceeding $14 million. It's in 2017. Their total compensation jumped by nearly 59%. From 2016, it was 25 million to 2017, almost 40 million in executive compensation. When you have a system that is that top heavy, but you can't get people in the building to work for direct patient care, these are the sort of systemic issues that then create what is already a shortage. It makes it even worse. And these are the sort of the decisions that they were making. You even go, you go and start looking into that. Seattle Times did a big report on this. This is back in 2016, 2017. They were cutting jobs. They were announcing layoffs.
Please wrap up.
Over 550 jobs were cut at Swedish. If you know that you're facing a lack of retention, you know you're facing a giant shortage of nurses, how are you making decisions like that? How are we not doing more to retain the nurses that we have? I want to keep the pressure on, keep noting that this is something that is a much bigger issue than just right now, today. It just happened. It's been going on for a long time. I want to thank you guys for your time, and thank you for the council members who are working with us to try and at least make some change on a local level. Thank you guys. That's my time.
Joe Kunzler.
Hello. Can you, good. Joe here. I'm going to be patiently brief considering, the technical difficulties, and then I think you should be focusing more on Providence right now. And in fact, Mayor Franklin is not present in the chambers as your Everett Link representative, but I tried to reach out to Mayor Franklin, and so I would just reach out here as well, that I really strongly support what Sound Transit is doing, looking at alignments, an alignment up Highway 99. I think it strikes a good balance between the time penalties, both commute time and construction time of Payne Field, and the clear and obvious denial of light rail to Everett's neighborhoods, and that's going to be a problem. I really think it's important that we have a robust public input process, not 1 month in, comment period, namely in December when most people are thinking about family and holidays, and all of a sudden they're hit with this generational decision that they have to give input on. I don't call that robust public input. I call that a recipe for the urbanist crowd, which I admit I'm a member of. I read the Urbanist, and you should too, because that's where you're going to get the most up-to-date news on Everett Link, especially with the local newspaper in the middle of a crisis trying to unionize. Go union, go Everett Guild. I just really want to stress the importance of staying on top of this Everett Link issue and of allowing the staff to do their jobs, do a thorough study of all the alternatives. I, like Mayor Franklin, do not support the I-5 alignment at this time. I think, frankly, it's a risky one, but I think considering the fact that so many people do need light rail to Everett in our lifetimes, that we need to have the conversation about what kind of time penalties there would be going out to a compromised Painesville location that then has to be served with buses. It's also going to cost us time getting up to Everett, or a compromise going up Highway 99 and into downtown Everett. I think those time penalties need to be openly discussed and not in a back room like they were in 2016 with the Snohomish County executive. I'm going to go ahead and give back the microphone. I think I've made my point, unless any of you have any questions for me. Thank you for having me. And yes, the photo is mine.
Thank you, Joe.
My name's Emily. I'm a nurse here in Everett. I work both in the emergency department and in the operating room. I am here for the second time. The first time I came virtual a couple weeks ago. Really because I am a servant of the public, just like you guys are. And as a nurse, I feel a strong ethical responsibility to talk about the needs of our community, specifically the healthcare needs. Healthcare entities, including the organization I work for, have an ethical responsibility to identify and meet the needs of the communities they serve. A staffing need for our hospital to serve the Everett community has been identified, a need that has only intensified in the last 2 weeks. The current solutions are failing to improve our staffing crisis at the cost of our community's safety. The Everett community and the individuals who come to our hospital for medical care have the right to emergency medical care. How can they receive this medical care that they really have a right to if there's so few nurses to provide it? As mentioned before, we have medics waiting on our ER hallways for up to 6 hours, waiting because there's no ER beds, and there's no ER beds because there's no inpatient beds, and there's no inpatient beds because there are no inpatient nurses. Our environment is so hazardous for our patients and our staff. As mentioned, I also work in the operating room. So what's happening there is that one of the short-term solutions is to cancel surgeries that don't, or that require a overnight stay. These are surgeries like cardiac surgeries for people with heart conditions or cancer patients that need an overnight stay. So it's really delaying their care. And it's, our ethical responsibility and obligation to serve our community, yet we're working right now on our financial deficits, right? That's what Providence tells us, that we're cutting some of the labor costs because and all hospitals are in such dire financial straits. How many nurses and physicians will feel so powerless and so hopeless and in so much moral distress that they'll choose a completely different profession instead of being your nurse or doctor? ER physicians and surgeons don't get paid when they don't see patients or perform surgeries. So these are people with high debt to student loans, and although we're talking about high-income people, this is their cost of living and their ability to provide for their families too. I'm really concerned that this is not only harming our vulnerable and sick patients, but those who have chosen to serve our community. I ask that Providence come and discuss some of the Sentinel events that have happened in 2001 and 2002. I have a long list of asks, but for time reasons, I'll just leave it there. I really appreciate your guys' time.
Good evening. I'd like to ask if I could have 5 minutes.
That usually, you need to ask that request prior to the council meeting, so I won't be able to offer that today.
Okay. Hello, my name is Heidi. I'm a nurse that's been working full-time in the ER at Providence here in Everett for 3.5 years. As you know, the ER nurses at Providence were the very first healthcare workers to lead the nation in the battle against COVID. We've been there since case number 1. We've fought tirelessly and sacrificed every aspect of our being. Mentally, physically, financially, our health. Many nurses have paid the ultimate sacrifice fighting on the front lines of this pandemic. We didn't ask for your help when we ran out of ventilators, ambu bags, gloves, masks, protective equipment, epinephrine, body bags. We stepped up and we shielded our community and we weathered the storm without hesitation. I want you to consider how bad things must be, and only now we are asking for your help. We've been asking Providence for hazard pay since March 2020, 2.5 years. Instead, Providence decided to invest in a quick fix of paying up to 3 times the amount for travel nurses to work in our hazardous conditions. Our core staff has withered as the years passed and no action was taken to retain the core staff. Providence's lack of action to retain and support their core staff has exacerbated our staffing crisis. Providence has stated that they're posting multiple full-time positions to help our staffing crisis, but what they haven't stated is these positions with up to $20,000 sign-on bonuses have been posted for years, unfilled because nobody wants to work here. New hires take months to train, months we don't have. So I asked Providence, come to next week's city council meeting and present what action are you taking to retain our current staff. I'm here today because our staffing crisis is beyond hazardous now. It is grave. We have been abandoned. We cannot weather this storm. We cannot hold on much longer. Since we came to you 2 weeks ago, we are seeing entire sections of our ER shut down, vacant, because there are no nurses left. We have gone from when will patients start dying in our lobby to now asking how many will die in our lobby. Earlier this week, I was told during my 12-hour shift that Providence leadership was deciding whether or not to mandate me and my coworkers to stay to work for 16 hours. Not only is mandating overtime against the law, but it's against our union contract. If Providence begins to force mandate overtime, we will see a mass exodus of remaining nurses. If Providence is able to break the law, break our contract, then I ask the city council to mandate hazard pay. Nurses are not only leaving because of the lack of hazard pay, but also because of the level of risk that staying in such a work environment could have on their medical license. We are doing war zone nursing. Unlike police officers, we do not have qualified immunity. By staying, we are risking our licenses. We ask for legal coverage if we are asked to stay on a sinking ship, to do the best we can without the staff, without the supplies, without a plan. Nurses have been there for you, so we ask community to please be there for us. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And now we will move on to are there any other comments today? Angie?
That is all for today.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our council comments and liaison reports, and we'll start with Councilmember Schwab.
I just want to thank the speakers today. I appreciate it. It's a hard thing to do.
Okay, we'll move to Councilmember Fosse.
Thank you for coming to speak. I know it's the emotional toll of what you're dealing with, and then the trauma of having to speak about it afterwards when you're already exhausted, and coming to have to speak here and like to tell us and relive that. And I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate you constantly relaying what's going on and keeping us up to date about what's happening right now. With, I think it's very relevant with the age wave that's coming, that we really need to know what the plans are for the safety of this community. That's going to have a huge impact on our hospitals. And from what I've been hearing, it sounds like we are in kind of a unique new circumstance with the mass exodus of nurses. I really look forward to hearing from the CEOs and administration at Providence. It sounds like they're working on arranging to come here, and they're going to have conversations next week, it sounds like, about when they're planning for that. So I would like to definitely hear what they've tried thus far to address this situation and what their plan is, because it doesn't sound like it's getting better. Every time we hear from the nurses, it sounds like there's more and more people leaving, and I can't imagine trying to keep up morale when, like you said, you're on a sinking ship, and that is directly impacting our community with long wait times and not being able to be seen when there's crises and problems. And so it has me and my neighbors concerned. And I thank you for taking the extra time to meet with us and try to set up, some solutions going forward. It's really essential that we have accessible health care for this community. And Providence is such a important asset to this community. So it's really quite grave that they address the needs of our neighbors in this community and what going forward. Speaking of other just general comments about if this is the city going to give any announcement to the events this weekend coming up?
I had not intended to do so, if you
Okay.
wanted to
Yeah,
share
I'm
that.
happy to mention them. I just didn't know if there was going to be an administrative announcement. This weekend, Nubium Jam is happening on Saturday at Forest Park. That's going to be from 10 to 7. It's going to be educational as well as an entertaining event with food and music and youth activities and more. I definitely encourage, all the families to definitely join us there. And then moving on to other activities, the Delta Neighborhood Association is again putting on Shakespeare in the Park. So that is going to be happening at Wiggum's Hollow, that's on 10th Street in Everett. At 4 p.m., they'll have Silly Fakespeare from Everett Improv, as well as the Shack Art Center doing kids puppet making. So again, that's another great family activity that's outdoors that I encourage folks to join in. 5 p.m. is when they do a performance of A Midsummer's Night's Dream. And it's been a hit in the past, and so I strongly recommend families also check that out. Right now, we're going through the heat issues, so heads up on cooling centers. You can check out the Everett libraries. The Snohomish County website also has a list of other cooling centers in the area. Carl Gibson Center is one of them, and there is also one at Forest Park. Tomorrow night, music at the Marina. Make sure to check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun. Head over there in the evening. If you haven't seen the Dusty 45s play yet, that is an experience, so definitely check that out. Last week, and this is my last bit, I got to attend Salty Sea Days, and then I was also able to go to the Criminal Justice Training Center in Burien. And I was really excited to hear Senator John Lovick talk about their proposal to have regional training centers around the state, and Everett being one of the proposed locations, so that we can train more recruits and officers and have more police officers, available in our community. It's also seems like a much more equitable approach too, because it's difficult for folks to pick up and leave their families for several months at a time just to go train for a job if they have children or, are needed to be at home to support their families. So having more of those training centers like dispersed throughout the state seems like we'll have a broader demographic be able to go for those jobs. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Other than that, I don't have any comments.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to Councilmember Zarlingo.
I want to express my appreciation for the public comments, help us understand this situation better as we move forward to understand the role of the council and what we can do with respect to other entities that support and regulate hospital operations. I think overall my sentiments were expressed very well by Council Members Fossey and Schwab, so I won't elaborate more there. Also appreciate the public comment on sound transit. That's a big issue for us and a very complicated one as I'm finding the deeper I look into it. And beyond that, no further comments from me.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Councilmember Vogely.
Hello, thank you so much, people online and people in the audience, for speaking. It's quite traumatic, and I feel you, and I hear you. It's sad because I've been telling my kids, because I've got 2 of them at breaking bone ages, and really anything else, okay, can't get hurt, can't go to the ER, there's nobody there's going to be able to take care of you. And they have that down now, and that's really not a cool thing to have to say as a mama. So things need to be fixed. I look forward to hearing from folks that have that option to actually do something about it. I know that my colleagues are working on something. So I'm glad to share that. I don't know what it is because I haven't been around. But to bring it to, let's see. So I had a husband who had cancer, and he had to have a couple of surgeries. I can only imagine, I keep putting myself into the situation, and I think that everybody else can too. So let's get this done for our community. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And we're moving on to Councilmember Ryan.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you to the folks that joined online and in person tonight. I really appreciate coming again to continue sharing your stories and your experiences. It's really impactful for us as a community to hear about it and just hear more about what you've been going through. So I know it takes a lot of courage to get up to that microphone, so thank you. And I also wanted to say a thank you too for, and a reminder about the comments that we heard tonight, last week and the week before from our nurses about how it's not just the nursing shortage, but it's the ripple effect that comes from that. It's the medics that are wrapped up while they're waiting for beds to open. It's the patients in the hallways that are receiving care in a hallway, sharing their secret medical information in a hallway for up to 24 hours or more. The decreased health outcomes that patients receive because of the lack of available care for them. And so I do look forward to the CEOs joining us and administration and hospital administration joining us to share more about the work that they're doing to address this, not just for the nurses, but for the ripple effect that comes from that, that impacts our whole community. And health's very important to me. I'm coming off of COVID, hooray. So I'm in that funny window where I can be in public again and see people in 3D. So that's awesome, but still masked up. So hip, hip, hooray. But yeah, I just want to remind everybody too about National Night Out coming up on Tuesday. So there's 11 events over the city. 9 of them are public. So head to the city website for National Night Out to find one near you. It's a great chance to get to see your neighbors and interact with law enforcement and the police department and city departments and whatnot. So looking forward to party hopping on Tuesday for National Night Out. Tuesday is also the primary, so just a friendly reminder to turn in your ballots on Tuesday and have it postmarked or in a ballot drop box by 8 p.m. on Tuesday. There's a few exciting parks openings that happened recently. The Emma Ewell Park over by the YMCA is now open and ready for business, so it's just an incredible park, and so I really encourage people to go check it out. The Lowell Off-Leash Dog Park is now open down by the Lowell waterfront, so head on down with your pooch if you got one to throw the ball and check it out. And I'm sure as Director Lefebvre will share soon, the Baywood walking path is now open in Northwest Everett, so it's just a great way to experience the waterfront. Let's see, starting August 7th, the Redistricting Commission is hosting a series of community meetings so that the community can have input and can hear more about the potential changes to the districting map in Everett. So it's a great way to see if you're going to maybe be in a new district or just to provide input on what you think of the proposed changes. And I also wanted to thank Joe for his continued advocacy for transit access in the community. I heard that rumor has it that Everett Transit is opening up a free fare to the waterfront on Route 6 starting August 4th on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday so that folks can access the events down at the port and down at the waterfront. So just really thrilled to see increased access to transit in our area and look forward to more ways that we can increase ridership. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just have a couple things to add to all the comments. I want to thank the nurses for sharing your story and what's happening. We really appreciate that. Otherwise, we hear things, but we don't know the actuality. It's a very unprecedented situation, and looking forward to hearing from the Providence administration, and hopefully we can kind of get things turned around, or they can. As far as National Night Out, one of the things would probably be helpful is if council members are going, if we could let Angie know where we hope to go so that we really try to have somebody go to visit all of them. So if there's any left open, then we'll know, and she can maybe send out something on Monday and say if anybody can stop by here, that'd be great. So I think that would be helpful for us, because we certainly want to encourage our neighbors to get out and enjoy, and it's always great. So, and that was all I have for tonight, or this afternoon, excuse me. Do we have an administrative update this afternoon, Lori?
Just a couple brief comments. Thank you for the information about the added route, Councilmember Ryan. Appreciate that for our community. I too want to acknowledge how difficult speaking here today was for our speakers. So thank you very much for being here. And thirdly, administration is, as we have said, working on bringing someone here from Providence to help address some of these issues. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to City Attorney, Mr. Hall.
There's no report from the legal department today, and we're not requesting an executive session.
Okay, great, thank you. So before I ask for a motion for the consent items, we have an outside presentation from the Port of Everett, and we have Lisa Lefebvre here, and she's going to give us a great update. Lisa?
Good afternoon. Lisa Lefebvre, Port of Everett. See if I can operate this correctly. I'm so happy to be here in person. It's been so long. We've just had the Brady Bunch for a while, so really happy to be here. A lot has happened during the last 2 years, and so I'd like to kind of walk through. I'm going to try to go, for the sake of time, quickly, but if there's anything you have questions on, don't hesitate to ask as I'm going through, or of course I'll be available afterwards for any questions you may have. So just a little bit about the port. I know we've got and I appreciate a lot of the council members came down for tours. We've had a shift over in our council, so I appreciate that. But just a little bit about the port. We're not countywide. We are a separate purpose district, and our job is to just create jobs. That's what ports do. That's our special purpose. We do have 3 lines of business. We have our international seaport, our marina, and our real estate. We have about 3,000 acres on the waterfront. These are our commissioners, Commissioner David Simpson, Commissioner Tom Steiger, and Commissioner Glenn Bachman, and they are elected to 6-year terms, and we have 3 in our governance structure. So one of the things that the city has been very supportive on over the years, and we've worked on this for some time, is creating this balanced waterfront, ensuring that we have our working waterfront where we have our trades, our Navy, our seaport, our jobs, the things that make our economy run, preserved and protected. And then our recreational waterfront where people can come down, enjoy the waterfront, recreate, and spend time with friends and family. So a little bit about our working waterfront. I will say very clearly that how many of you really thought about supply chain up until recently? Nobody. Don't order a couch. But the ports have really come into the forefront. A lot of people and in the industries are saying, oh, it's because the ports are backed up. That's why we're not getting our stuff. That's why the stuff's at anchor. It's actually bigger than that. What happened during COVID was there was a lack of supplies, a lack of inventory, a lack of medical gloves. I mean, you name it, there was a lack of product. And so it turned in from a just-in-time delivery system to a just-in-case. So basically what happened is all of the importers just started bringing in 3 months worth of cargo into their warehouses. These warehouses were only built for 1 month of cargo. Our ports were only built for 1 month of product. And so you started to see this stack up. We were fortunate that the port had been undergoing a rather large modernization to support the 777X. We are one of only, I think we are one of the only ports on the U.S. West Coast that have these post-Panamax cranes. And these cranes were needed to handle the larger 777X parts. We all know what happened with aerospace. People were not flying, they weren't going anywhere. Almost overnight, we lost millions and millions and millions of dollars for the decline in aerospace. And actually, because we are a special purpose district, we didn't get any recovery dollars. We didn't get anything from the federal government because our ports are separate, so there was no pass-through money. We just couldn't get to it. So we're trying to work through some of those issues. But because we had these cranes and these, it's kind of technical, but these spreaders to handle large containers, we were actually able to serve as a backlog and a stopgap for the supply chain. So it was very fortunate that we had those and were able to kind of help ease some of those supply chain issues and get goods to market sooner rather than later. This is a kind of a snapshot. We had about a 400% increase in container volumes. We are the 3rd largest seaport, container port in the state, but we are a distant 3rd. So to put this in perspective, it sounds like a big number, but we were only doing 10 to 12,000 containers a year because they were mostly Boeing. Most of what we specialize is in high-value, oversized cargo. That was a direct result of supply chain, and that is starting to ease. But we had about 40 more ships in 2021 than in 2020. So Norton Terminal, we are well under construction with this. So during the pandemic, as you recall, the port entered into a purchase and sale agreement with Kimberly-Clark November 2019. During the pandemic, we worked with Kimberly-Clark to remove 14,000 dump truck loads of contaminated debris, backfill it with 14,000 dump truck loads of clean sand, and this is a very large environmental cleanup site through the state's MODCA. So we were able to essentially clean the site up, put in the utilities, infrastructure, state-of-the-art stormwater. This is the first time this site's ever had stormwater treatment, and it's got the state-of-the-art modular wetlands underneath. And then we're actually just starting to pave now, and it's going to double as a marine cargo terminal as well as an environmental cap to make sure any of the residual contamination doesn't leach into the harbor. So this is opening November 30th. We're going to have a ribbon cutting. Save the date if you can. It's a very exciting time. We basically, from the time we bought the property to the time it's opening is 2 years. As a reminder, the site sat vacant for 10 years before that. So we're really proud of the progress we made during the pandemic on this. The warehouse, it's not pretty. And so one of the things, this is like one of the reasons that the building was left is because it actually is serving as an environmental cap to an Exxon cleanup. And so, but it's a huge amenity. Warehousing space, distribution, huge right now, as you can imagine. It's 360,000 square feet. And we are working on an adaptive reuse to try to dress up the warehouse to be able to bring in jobs to the second and third floor and support cargo operations on the ground floor. So we are in talks with potential tenants and hope to have more on that soon. We actually are going to be doing, regardless, a demising of the west end of the warehouse to be able to provide greater ingress and egress from our existing terminals to our new Norton terminal. So part of this building is going to get lopped off. One of the exciting things is in 2009, we submitted for strategic seaport designation. We got a really nice note back and said, that's cute, but here's all the things that you need to do before you can earn that designation. And essentially what we did is we built our capital program in seaport modernization around that list of deficiencies. And so very exciting that in November of this last year, we earned strategic seaport designation. So we are one of only 18 ports in the United States that can move and mobilize military cargoes in support of our armed forces. And we did 850 pieces of a military shipment last summer. And so this is a really critical tool for Everett. Everett has always been a backup for in case there was a natural disaster in Seattle and Tacoma. This essentially solidifies that so that we can help get more investment in our facilities. And then greening the supply chain, we actually just signed today almost $4 million of new cargo handling equipment for our seaport to be able to help with the efficiency as well as the environmental aspects of the seaport. We, as part of our new Norton terminal, we actually put in infrastructure to support the future of electric harbor tugs. There's a big push in trying to reduce the carbon footprint of the trade industry. Our south terminal is already wired for shore power. In 2024, California is going to require that every ship that comes into the state of California require shore power. We're ready for it. The ships aren't. So as soon as every ship pretty much that goes into California will come into Washington. So we're tracking for that time frame. Destination waterfront. This is an exciting time trying to create and deliver the fun side of the business. This is where people can, to use the cliche, live, work, and play. We've got our splash fountain that's opened. Last year was kind of rough because of COVID, we had to put viewing only. This year it's really open. We've got our dock walk. We got Pacific Rim Plaza. Jetty Island Days is in full swing. So it's really a fun, you mentioned the marina, music at the marina. There's a lot of fun activities coming down the pike, which I'll talk about. We've also got a lot of building going on. So right now, Fisherman Jack's and South Fork Bakery is under construction, as well as the Freedom Boat Club and yacht sales. We have just signed leases with Anisopera Spa, which is going to be a luxury spa that has float pods and massages and facials and all the stuff because we've got 2 hotels that are probably in the neighborhood of 300 rooms between the 2 of them, no spa services. So they are coming in, the owners are, and the investors are, have worked at Willows down in Woodinville for years, so they're very well qualified in spa services, so I'm excited about that. We've got Rustic Cork Wine Bar, looking for an ice cream shop, and having a yoga studio. Then we've got Lazy Boy Brewing is coming in right here, and we're looking for a fish market. The reality is that Port's probably going to end up operating it like a farmer's market for a time until there's someone interested in kind of taking it on, because we want it to be a year-round fresh fish market where people can come and not only get seasonal fish, but also just year-round fresh fish, because this is our commercial fishing dock. Port Gardner Landing, Woods Coffee, and Sound to Summit is under construction. We broke ground a couple weeks ago. They're moving dirt. So this is going to be a drive-through with brewery. And then Everett Yacht Club is under construction. They're expected to open soon. They are no longer in this building. Actually, we're preparing this building for demolition, the old yacht club. And then one of the things that we wanted to make sure is we wanted to make sure that we didn't focus all of our attention in the Central Marina, and then the businesses in the South Marina would suffer. And so we wanted to create this connectivity that kind of blends through, and I'll show you a little bit about what that's going to look in terms of destination retail. But we've already signed our first tenant, and actually it's funny, every time we sign a new tenant, they take a little bit of space and then they email back and say, can we have more? So it's a good problem to have. We've got the Jetty Landing restroom I don't know what it is with bathrooms, but this has taken the longest time to build this bathroom. We actually ordered a prefab in partnership with the city and the county. We're like, oh, we're going to do a prefab. We're going to get this in there. It's going to be quick. Nope. So we've actually built a stick structure bathroom that will open sooner than that bathroom because it got hung up during COVID with state approvals and contracting and anyway. So it'll open one of these years. And then we've got the Warehouser building. We're breaking ground on August 23rd. Mark your calendar. They're going to be redoing the historic Warehouser building. It's going to be a whiskey coffee bar on the bottom and our boating and yachting clubs on the top. And we're looking at the finances to see if we can swing it, but we may, as part of this project, start to build the stage on the back for performance venues while we're doing the work on the project. So we have to see where the costs come in. And then I'll show you the LPC West, which is phase 2, which we're moving into and breaking ground on next month as well. These are the ones that are now under construction, as you can see, which I just talked through. These are the ones that are breaking ground in the near future with the time frames, and you have this presentation so you can take a look, and for those of you who are at the Port Report, I apologize, you could probably give this presentation. And then the next item is what's opening in 2023. We've got Fisherman Jack's, South Fork Bakery, Freedom Boat Club, Everett Yacht Club, Warehouser Muse, and Jetty Landing. We opened our housing this year as well, and they're pretty much full. They're stabilized. It's crazy. I get emails all the time asking for wait lists for the next phase, which is this. So we'll be moving into the Millwright District. This is going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 housing units, 200,000 square feet of commercial office, and another 60,000 square feet of retail. The first phase is the port's ground building the road. We were very fortunate to partner with the county on having them help us figure out a way, and the Treasurer's Office to find a way to help fund that through them buying our bonds. And so I want to thank the Treasurer's Office and the staff for that. That was huge. So we're breaking ground. We're moving dirt. It's all fill, so we have to preload. So that'll be moving along. So I always tell people, or whoever's listening in the universe, if you are a boater in the Central Marina, I apologize in advance because it's going to be a little dicey as we move into the second phase. This is what's under construction with Restaurant Row. This is a picture of Fisherman Jack's in South Fork. There'll be outdoor dining. It's hard to see, but they'll have like a TV and fire pits, and it'll be really cool. They're putting quite a bit of money in their tenant improvements on this. It's going to be an Asian dim sum type feel, and the South Fork Bakery is doing wonders. This is the concept drawing for the A12. This is the building that's going to be right next to it on the promenade. Rustic Cork Wine Bar will be here. The spa would have half of the first top floor and then a portion of the first floor because we don't want float pods and pools on the second floor in case they leak. And then we'll have we're working on a hot yoga studio up here, as well as ice cream shop at the back end over here. This is Lazy Boy Brewing. This is where they would be. This is at the corner of this West Marine View Drive. This is 15th Street, Saner Drive. Lazy Boy Brewing, and then this would be the fish market, kind of right at the edge of our fisherman terminal. This is the concept for the Woods drawing. This is a courtyard for Sound to Summit Brewing, and then the drive-throughs on the other side. We were joking that we were going to have, given the Top Gun release and the sailors and so forth, maybe they can bring a piano and play Top Gun or Great Balls of Fire when we open it. So we'll see if that happens. And then the destination retail. One of the things that's been on my mind quite a bit is there's no green space in our South Marina. It's a lot of asphalt. And that's by design because it was marina parking, and that was really the sole purpose, and the compatibility issues with the Navy and so forth. But I think it's time with this project, and as we look for connectivity, to really bring in public space and green space through buildings. And so their ideas being, kind of, you can see kind of the themes, but places where kids can go play, passive recreation, if they want to have little concerts or events in here, things where people can enjoy the waterfront on the South Marina. This is some artist concepts of the Weyerhaeuser Muse. It's going to be it was built in 1923, so it's coming up on its 100 year, so it's going to open March 2023. And so because it was in the 20s, the Roaring 20s and so forth, they're kind of designing it like the 20s era, so it's like a speakeasy type feel, which I think is going to be pretty cool. And the historic equator, we've been working with the historical community. As you know, this boat has collapsed. The only thing that's really intact is this bow. So we're working with the historical community to see, one, we're going to put epoxy on the front of it to see if we can get the bow safely removed. And then we're going to integrate it into an urban dog park in that vicinity. That's one of the things that a lot of people there's two things that people have been asking for on the waterfront: dog park and a playground set for kids on the water. So that's what we're looking to do with this project. We're looking at some kind of fun boat-themed activity in Jetty Landing Park. And hopefully be able to preserve this bow to be able to integrate it into the design of the park. We're going to call it the Equator Bark, which is kind of cute. This is just the public access. We mentioned the Baywood Trail opening. This continues to grow. Every time we try to do a project, we try to integrate more public access into the waterfront. And so the more development we do, the more access hopefully we can provide. Just some waterfront events, a lot of activities. We do food truck Fridays at the boat launch, and movies and harbor tours. We've partnered with the Historical Society to do history tours, so just lots and lots of activity. So we have a whole events calendar online. I encourage you all to take a look. The Grand Avenue Bridge that the city built, that's been a game changer. I mean, the number of people and scooters and things that I see going by my office every day it's unbelievable. So nice job to you guys for that. That was a huge investment. And then this is just we've got 400 jobs coming in to the Baywood site. This is the first time in its history that it's been cleaned up, public access and jobs in the last 30-plus years, so we're excited about that. Apparently, people like hot dogs. We did not have enough hot dogs or people working the hot dog stand to support the event. It's like, but it was very, very well attended. And we're working on partnering with Mukilteo, the Mukilteo waterfront. They've got part of it redeveloped with the ferry terminal, but a lot of it is still the same. And so the port led the effort to get the tank farm property back from the Air Force, and then we had transferred the land to the city of Mukilteo, the Tulalip tribes, and the Washington State Ferries. And unfortunately, not much has occurred since we transferred the land in 2016. So the NOAA facility, unfortunately, is not moving forward anymore. They were going to do their marine research facility there. And the enabling legislation said that if they didn't move forward, then the land would come to the port. So it gave us another opportunity to say, okay, well, let's see how we can help get this moving. So we're working on that right now. We opened the parklet, and more work's coming on that for outdoor dining on the Mukilteo waterfront. On the environmental side, literally every single property we have purchased has had environmental issues. We've cleaned up 250 acres of waterfront, and we continue to look and do more. Our next big project is going to be the Mill A cleanup, which is an in-water cleanup. It's a significant project. And so we're working through the remedial investigation and feasibility study for that, but that's a critical project for overall health of the bay. And, they say for every $1 spent in cleanup, there's $7 in economic output by getting those properties back into productive use. So that's kind of our motto. It's not kind of, it is our motto. We clean up properties and build jobs at the same time. Blue Heron Slough, it's old Behringer Farm. The port bought it in 1993 for mitigation. We've been moving forward since 2005 to get it permitted and ready to go. We are breaching the dike starting next month, and we are going to create the largest wetland habitat restoration project on the West Coast, possibly in the nation. Haven't been able to confirm that yet, but it's pretty cool. This is going to be huge for salmon, waterfowl, the orcas. This is a huge benefit to our overall quality of our bay, because it gives these channels to be able to have the baby salmon grow without getting eaten. So it's a key project, and hopefully you guys can all come. We're partnering with the Tulalip tribes on this. They're the conservator of this project, and it'll be a very exciting event. And then just other things real quickly, because I know I've probably taken too much time. We're partnering with the Cascade Industrial Center to really help grow North County, and they've got a lot of growth coming in, and that is tied to our international seaport. Workforce development, we talked about that. It's kind of, everyone's calling it the Great Resignation. That's having major impacts on workforce, getting people into the trades. And so we've been working with training programs, different high schools, the regional apprentice program, really trying to get people to be able to come to work and move goods and build ships and all of the things that we do down at the port. And then last but not least, one of the things that the commissioners have been talking about for years, I've been at the port 18 years, we've been talking about it since I started, is our boundaries. So you can see this is our boundary. Every other port of a large size, we are the largest port in the state that's not county-wide. And that is, it's really kind of I think, an economic limitation to Snohomish County, because we have tools in our toolbox that cities and counties don't have for job creation, remediation, access to grant funding, things like that. And so the commission has asked us to do outreach to outside our boundaries and say, what's important to your community? What do you think the port, what value proposition do you see from the port? And do you think that having a port in your city or your community would be of value? That outreach is just kind of underway, and depending on the outcome of that outreach, the staff would make a recommendation, and the commission would decide whether we put it out for a vote or not. So that's just something that's kind of working its way through. But I'm kind of the opinion that, eventually you got to stop talking about it and just say yay or nay. And so that's kind of where we're at. And that concludes my presentation. I know I went over, I apologize, and I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Lisa. It's always great to hear the updates. So we'll start with Councilmember Ryan to see if any council members have any questions or comments.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa, so much for coming today. I feel so excited every time I hear more about what's coming to the waterfront, and I'm particularly, you have me at Whiskey Bar, so just really thrilled to see. I feel like every time I go down there, I see the blank slate that maybe you do too, of ways that the waterfront can just be just such an amazing destination for not just the people of Everett, but for the whole state and the whole nation. So I really appreciate the vision and the work that you guys have been doing to touch on all the different activities and recreational opportunities for people. So thanks so much for all of that. And thanks for your presentation as well. So for part of my district, for District 2 includes the Rucker Hill neighborhood. So it's just right above from the working area of the port. And I've heard from constituents with concerns about some of the noise that happens, particularly during the nighttime when they're trying to sleep and whatnot. So if you could share a little bit more about the work that you've done to address excessive noise at the port and what's in the works, I think that'd be really great.
Yeah, sure. So it is, an industrial seaport, and so we do, part of moving cargo is big equipment, and it's usually steel, so it's hard to eliminate all noise. But one of the things we've done is we've upgraded all of our reach stackers with the technology, so instead of having the reach stackers manually grab the containers, it's done through software now, so that's eliminated the big bangs. So that's been done. All the new equipment that we're buying, as I mentioned earlier, we just signed agreements for $4 million worth of equipment. All of that has that software. It's more quiet and it's more friendly for the neighbors. We've also changed some of our operating procedures. So this is kind of inside baseball, but after September 11th, any container that leaves a U.S. port for security reasons has to go through a radiation portal monitor. So a lot of what the neighbors were hearing is the container going over the monitor because it cannot leave port until it's been cleared, which is good for everyone. But what we've started to do is we started to clear those preemptively during the day, so when they go out, you don't hear that noise as much. So those are some of the things that we've been taking as precautions, as well as talking with our longshoremen. We did actually try the ambient noise backup alarms, and unfortunately our longshore said that they couldn't hear them and it was a safety issue, and so we weren't able to make the changes to the ambient noise for safety, and that's in their contract. Did that answer your question?
Thank you. So if neighbors or constituents had more questions, or if they had complaints, not that constituents ever have complaints, who could they speak to, or where could I direct them?
Yeah, we have a noise hotline, so they can go on the website, go to the noise hotline. They can email publicaffairs@portoferett.com, and we will get back to them. Sometimes, in the summer, it's always the noise because people's got their windows open, and in the winter it's always the lights because it gets dark so early. And so, but we try to accommodate as much as we can. I've got neighbors that call and say, hey, this light's facing my house, can you twist it? And our guys go down there and tweak it. So we try to do everything we can to be good neighbors, but we can't eliminate all noise because it's steel.
Understood.
Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And just one last mention, that was the first that I'd heard of the commitment to green space. I'm really thrilled to hear about that and whatnot, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Vogely?
Fantastic presentation. Thank you so much. And also the wetland, and I'm hoping it's the largest in the country.
I'm gonna look for it.
Thank you. That's all.
Yeah.
Councilmember Zarlingo?
Yeah, great presentation. Actually, you already answered one of the questions I had about the port boundary. I live just outside the port boundary, if I understand it correctly. And one of the things I think that that a city does that's successful is make the most of the particular benefits the situation it has. And being a waterfront city, the combination of commercial industrial activity, recreational activity, and the environment, I think is a great triple play for us. It's the kind of thing that'll bring more people here, make it a better place to live. So I very much appreciate that. And also the initiative with respect to shore power. I've been reading for a decade or so about some port cities and some significant air quality problems because of ships idling, burning bunker fuel, and the shore power can really, especially here in the Northwest where we have a lot of renewable power. So we got to get a double benefit by that. So thank you for that there. I don't think I had any other questions that weren't answered today.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Fosse.
Thanks. Thank you for the Baywood event and having veggie hot dogs there. That was very nice for my family.
Did you get a hot dog?
Yeah. My family had a great time there. And I also wanted to say thank you for your continued efforts and determination on the bathrooms. And I agree with Councilmember Ryan on your consideration of the green space and that being important. I know my neighbors will appreciate that, as do I, in the family-friendly spaces. So that's great to see as part of the project. The adapted reuse projects look amazing, so I'm so excited to see what comes with those. And I know my neighbors are just going to be absolutely thrilled with all of the recreational space and the food and the destination retail and sometimes I think we all don't realize like how special of a port we really do have here in the community, and how much it covers and how big it is, and so I thank you for bringing this presentation forward. I do have I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on the $4 million improvements and how that tied into any sort of environmental aspects, because you said it was more environmental friendly, and then maybe elaborate a little bit more on any electrification efforts again.
Yeah, absolutely. So the cargo handling equipment, every year or 2 or 3, the equipment gets cleaner, the engines get cleaner. And so you have the opportunity, there's 2 things you can do. You can buy essentially used equipment, and it's not as quiet and it's not as environmentally friendly because it's been used, right? It's kind of like needs some WD-40. I guess you could say. The equipment that we're buying, we always try to invest in new equipment and the state-of-the-art engines so that they burn cleaner. Now, from an electrification standpoint, they're looking at, so Crowley Tug and Barge right now are building an electric tug. I believe there's other major tug operators that are looking at it because a lot of companies are looking at their social responsibility. Like we all are, right? How do we reduce our carbon footprint? How do we make our air quality and our community better? So some of our major customers, obviously we've got Boeing, J.B. Hunt, Amazon, Walmart, big corporations that, GM, big corporations that bring product and jobs through our port. They want to lessen their carbon footprint. And so by using an electric harbor tug, that helps. That's an attractive feature to help, bring the ship into port on electric. Having full electric tugs that are maybe ocean going is more challenging because there's no place to fuel them or to recharge. So the harbor is really kind of where they're looking at. The other electrification, I mentioned the electric tugs, the shore power. So by 2024, we should have, all the ships should be capable of plugging in, which is great because California is always the leader in those types of initiatives because they've got LA Long Beach, which is the largest port complex in the nation. So that drives the industry. And then we benefit from it. And then the third major electrification that we're working on is with our shipyard. We're looking at putting electrical power down the dock to be able to electrify that pier for our shipyard operations.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Councilmember Schwab.
I just want to thank you and the port for being so responsive to the community input on several of these projects. and also your outreach program. It's a very good model. I think I've seen a version of this presentation several times, so thank you for all the efforts that you and the port put in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it very much. Excited to see all the new development. So look forward to more excitement.
Yes. And thank you guys so much for your time. And if there's anything that comes up, any concerns that are brought to you that should be directed to us or that I need to address, please let me know. And I'll do my best to address it the best I can.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to our consent items now. Do I have a motion for the 9 consent items?
Vogely moves consent items.
Second?
Councilmember Ryan seconds.
Thank you. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Vice President Tui.
Yes. We have 3 proposed action items. The first 2 have already been read. The item 13 is the first reading, and I will read item 13 into the record. Council Bill 2207-32. It's a first reading, adopt an ordinance relating to domestic violence and violations of protective court orders, amending chapters 10.02, 10.16, 10.22, and 10.23 of the Everett Municipal Code. The third and final reading will be on August 10th of '22. Do I have any questions on the proposed? Yes, Councilmember Vogely.
Just really quick, this is essentially just a bunch of numbers changes, not really necessarily content changes, right?
This is to bring our code into compliance with state law, but it's really a technical fix. It doesn't do anything substantively. Our code has always treated pre-judgment protective orders and post-judgment protective orders separately, even though they have exactly the same requirements, exactly the same penalties. And most jurisdictions combine that into one section, as does state law, and that's what we're doing here.
Thank you very much, that is all.
Okay, any other questions from council members? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our action items. Action item number 14, Council Bill 2207-27, third and final reading, adopt the proposed ordinance amending EMC 16.60.090, granting limited authority to the fire marshal and fire marshal designees. Do I have a motion?
Councilmember Ryan so moves.
Seconded.
Thank you. Do I have any questions from any council members? Seeing none, clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Vice President Tui.
Yes. Council Bill 2207-28, the third and final reading, adopt a proposed ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Water Main Replacement X, Fund 336, Program 031. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Vogely seconds.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Okay, seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Vice President Tui.
Yes. Now on to our council briefing agenda. This item comes before the city council serving as a council committee of the whole and are likely to be scheduled at a future meeting. It's item number 16, Council Bill 2207-31, our first reading, adopt an ordinance updating the park code, amending Everett Municipal Code Chapters 9.06 and 46.80.030. Third and final reading will be on August 10th. And welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you very much. Hi there, Kimberly Marr, Assistant Parks Director. Good afternoon. Oh, thank you. So I'm here to update you on a few minor changes we'd like to make to the park code ordinances. First of all, I think it's important. Let me see if I can advance this. There we go. First of all, I think it's important to discuss why Everett has a park code. The goal of the park code is to ensure that all residents and visitors to Everett parks have a great experience. Park code is enforced by our park rangers with authority coming from the Parks Director, Bob Leonard. Park rangers no longer have direct access to warrant or driver's license status information, so we want to remove this requirement from the park code. Rangers currently will call into dispatch the park code violators information, and somebody from EPD will run the information and dispatch an officer to assist the ranger if needed. Also, since we were doing this update, we felt it would be a good opportunity to remove some dated language in the noise ordinance, as most of us are not creating a noise nuisance using our tape players any longer. And also, Washington State changed the legal age of smoking and vaping from 18 to 21, so this is updated in the park code to reflect those changes. All right. Some additional changes to park code make it legal for youth to sell items in parks and addresses some safety aspects of e-bikes and motorized scooters used in parks, such as helmet use, speed limits, and safely passing pedestrians. We also added drone language to the park code, limiting their use in parks, as well as creating an infraction penalty for individuals who harass wildlife in parks. We created infraction penalties for people who dump trash in parks, drink liquor in parks, abandon pets in parks, set off fireworks, and for people who moor their boats on our public docks for longer than 4 hours. We added a penalty for adults selling items in the parks without authorization as well. And finally, we removed a section of park code that speaks of the park director giving a reward to people for information on park code violations. This is a practice that is not used, nor one that we see as beneficial any longer. And so I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Kimberly. So we'll see if any questions here. I see Councilmember Vogely.
Awesome. I loved seeing this week because we went to Green Lake in Seattle last week, and my son really wanted to sell some items. I was like, well, we should probably look at the code. And seeing this here, he is under 13, is just, it's glorious, so thank you. Helmets, I think I have, not sure so much if I have an issue, but is there another place in our city code that speaks to helmets and whether they must be worn, on bikes? I know that adults don't have to, but maybe kids do. Is this the same as that? Is it being changed everywhere? And essentially, I don't want to have helmets be required, even though I think they're very much good for safety and you should wear them. I don't want them to be required personally. And liquor, does liquor mean all kinds of alcohol or just, liquor as like vodka and I don't know what else, whiskey?
We felt that liquor really covered any kind of alcohol beverage, and that is signed in all of the parks as well. People know that they're not allowed to bring any kind of liquor, alcohol, beer, wine into the parks, nor any drugs or vaping products. I don't know if I can speak. I could get back to you regarding the helmet rules because I'm not positive.
I'm not expecting an answer right now, just.
And I do want to remind council that really the park rangers are not there to be the iron claw of the law. We're really just there to make recommendations to the public. And they can do a citation if it's appropriate. I don't think a helmet would probably be appropriate for a citation.
That's all I have, and I thank you very much, and thank you.
Okay.
Council Vice President Tui, that is a very good question about the definition of liquor. I had the same question because I think a lot of people understand liquor to mean hard spirits, not beer and wine. Is it worth considering changing that to alcoholic beverage if that's your intent? Just a thought.
Yeah, we worked really closely with Tim around this language, and there was a reason why it couldn't change.
If you worked with Tim, I'm sure there was a very good reason.
All right, Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, lots of small changes. I went through the materials, and happy to see that being modernized. I think I still have a tape player somewhere. But I just this morning, driving past Thornton Sullivan Park, there was someone on a what would normally be, I guess you'd call it a scooter, except that it had a seat bolted to it and it had handlebars and sort of the equivalent of an electric motorcycle, just like some of our bicycles are these days. And I guess I can anticipate further evolution of that as this goes forward. I'm not sure where that will be, and to some degree we're going to have to adapt that way. And I think as we get more of those vehicles coming through the park, and as things like the trails get expanded, what's happening with Thornton Sullivan and around Silver Lake. So I guess I expect to hear further on those kinds of things in the future. I'm also happy to see the allowance of kids selling things. I think that's the kind of stuff that if it's done at a small scale and we address problems if they crop up, otherwise we can just allow that kind of thing that sometimes we had problems with making illegal before. And then I also very much behind the idea of the parks rangers as educators, let people know what, if they need a reminder of what's tolerant and civil behavior in the parks, and I don't anticipate them writing a lot of citations, but I do think that they play a really important role in keeping the parks the kind of places that people want to come and visit, and those periodic reminders. So thank you for the briefing and for your work on this. It was a big job.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other, Councilmember Ryan, you had a question?
I noticed in here that you have, except with prior written approval by the Parks Director. Is that like a permit? What specifically does that mean?
Are you talking about adults selling in parks?
Yeah, the business activity section.
Well, I think there's exceptions to every rule, right? And so I imagine if we had an event in a park where they wanted to charge for beer and wine, that could be authorized on a case-by-case basis.
But like permits and all that other stuff, or requesting or reserving a park or something like that it would fall under this?
Yes, we have a special use application that people use.
Okay, so that's included in this. This is just more of an umbrella. Okay, that's clear. And this is just a question for myself. I noticed that you have changed the language to himself or herself or themselves. Is themselves not covering that, or do you specifically have to break it out into the three?
Again, that was language that was provided by our legal department, so
Okay.
I don't know that I can really answer to that.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you. Okay.
Councilmember Ryan?
Well, that actually covered most of mine, so. But yeah, I did notice the changes in, the small changes from binary language of he or she or to that person, so I appreciate the inclusiveness. Thanks.
Okay. Councilmember Schwab, anything? All right, thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. I don't have any questions. I do look forward, though, on the bike helmet. I think that's a good question, because I'm remembering something that we want to make sure it's all lined up, so. All right, thank you so much.
No problem.
And with no further business and no executive session, we are adjourned.